Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have a great show for you today. Kim Iversen joins me for the entire show remotely while Robbie is out sick. It's great to see you, Kim.
Well, it's early, really early. So for those of you that don't know, I'm in LA. So when I get up to do the show to fill in for Robbie or something, it's just it's early. So
you're a hero.
Well, here I am. So we do have a great show for you today. I'm gonna power through it. We've got some great content. We're gonna hear from Alencia Johnson and Emily Jashinsky on a new GOP super PAC pumping money into key House and Senate contests. Plus, we'll bring new updates on Epstein's suicide, the explosive Piers Morgan Trump trailer, and why Tulsi Gabbard is demanding Romney and Keith Olbermann retract statements accusing her of being a Russian asset.
But first, Vermont Senator, Budget Chairman, and one of my former bosses, Bernie Sanders, may be mulling another run for president. If Biden doesn't run, that is. The Washington Post first reported the memo, and several outlets, including The Hill, have confirmed that the document does exist. The memo said, quote, "In the event of an open 2024 Democratic presidential primary, Senator Sanders has not ruled out another run for president." It also touted Bernie's popularity status and his support of the working class.
Congressman Ro Khanna tweeted out some of the Bernie's popularity data that was in the memo. According to YouGov, Bernie is the most popular elected official in the country, which the congressman attributed to Bernie's strong progressive agenda, adding that he was proud to have co-chaired this campaign. Before the news broke yesterday, Bernie appeared in front of the Budget Committee and showed why he's the most favored politician among workers.
When we talk about why the American people are angry, why, among other things, we're seeing a spurt in the growth of trade unionism in this country, it has a lot to do with the fact that CEOs in large corporations now make 350 times more than their average workers. In addition to that, they receive stock options, golden parachutes, and a wide range of perks go to the CEOs. And meanwhile, working families are struggling to pay their bills, to feed their kids, to take a few weeks vacation, and to save up for retirement. So what we are seeing now is more income and wealth inequality in this country than we have seen in 100 years. And this is an issue that if nobody else wants to talk about, we will talk about in this committee.
Yeah, I gotta say, I understand why there's so much enthusiasm about this on the left. There has been a real void since Bernie dropped out in 2020. The popularity numbers are true. He's still among, if not the most popular elected representative in this country. And that is because I think he's been so consistent for all of these years. As the conversation ping-pongs back between social issues, there he is, dutifully talking about the economic concerns that continue to plague this country. And I think especially in a moment like this, there are a lot of people who would welcome a respite from all of the fighting and a return to the kind of basic grassroots bread and butter issues that are concerning so many people.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, let's get real. I don't think Bernie's going to be running again because I do think that Joe Biden is going to be running again. And even if Joe Biden didn't run again, the Democratic Party is not selecting Bernie Sanders to be the nominee. And I think it's become abundantly clear to many of us that who they put their power behind is who ends up ultimately getting the nomination. It doesn't seem to be based on who's actually popular amongst the voters. They figure out a way to ensure that other voters come out and end up, changing the outcome. I mean, I just don't see Bernie Sanders being the nominee no matter what. And I also think that a lot of people, they would have some of the same concerns about Bernie regarding age compared to Joe Biden. It's like, oh, what's the difference?
They're basically the
Bernie
same age. Yeah,
they are the same age.
I think all of that's malarkey.
Yeah. Well, right. And Bernie is way spunkier than Joe Biden. I mean, how a person ages is not based on the actual number. There's other physiological things to that.
Right.
But, one thing that also really stands out to me about this is, why is it that so when Trump was in office, the only thing we ever heard about, not just from Bernie, but from pretty much the entire Democratic base and politicians, is racism, sexism, bigotry, constantly going on about we got to fight all of this. And then Joe Biden gets into office. You've got a Democrat finally sitting there. And now you've got Bernie Sanders saying, well, I'm going to talk about this because no one else is. Why isn't the Democratic Party talking about this? Why are they focused on so many other things other than, I mean, look, granted, there's other things that they have to be focused on, like not the war. I mean, that would be something I'd like them to put more focus on what Bernie's talking about. But instead, they do definitely need to worry about the economy. But they just seem to focus on war and COVID. And, this is the time when Democrats are in power. They should be the ones stepping up, doing things from the workers. They claim that that's what they were running on. And yet here you've got Bernie sitting by himself, essentially saying the same things he's been sitting by himself saying this whole time for years.
Right. Well, the reason that the Democratic Party isn't talking about those things is, of course, because we have two corporate parties that are equally invested in substantively maintaining the status quo. So
Totally.
Bernie is able to criticize the system from the outside because he is an outsider. He is an independent senator from Vermont. And that's why I think a lot of people across the ideological spectrum were committed to him, because it took courage to spend all of that time outside for 40 years. But I think the real scuttlebutt here in this story is that a lot of folks see this as a planted story, something that was leaked by Fashakir, who led the Bernie campaign in 2020. And this is meant to generate some interest, some buzz, but it's not really, to your point, meaningful insofar as Joe Biden is likely to run, and also the Democratic Party is never going to get behind Bernie Sanders. And there are people who are very skeptical of this story in the first place because they feel that even as much as they admire Bernie Sanders, they're frustrated that he hasn't been more vocal about some of the splits that have happened among the left since he dropped out of the race, and are very concerned that he hasn't pushed for the kinds of reforms that would prevent future left candidates from being sidelined the way he was sidelined, like helping to develop an alternative third party.
Right, absolutely. And the other thing, Bernie, maybe it would be, I think, in his best interest to even start planting stories like this, to be honest, and even potentially running and actually doing it, just to continue holding up to the values that he claims he holds, which is pushing for workers, pushing for the middle class. This would be the way to do it. Threaten Joe Biden, essentially.
Yeah, he did it to Barack Obama, and he got a lot of flack for it. But he threatened to run in 2012 over some social program that Barack Obama was canceling, or threatening to curb. I believe it was Social Security. And during the 2020 campaign, a lot of people tried to make this a racial issue. Oh, Bernie Sanders was going to primary our first black president. How dare he? But it was arguably, many people believe that it was his mere threat to run that caused Barack Obama to back off of his threat to cut some of these much needed and very popular social programs. So I completely agree with you there, Kim.
Yeah, that's what he needs to do. Well, Bernie, holding true to himself, he is expected to visit the Amazon warehouse in New York with labor leader Christian Smalls this weekend. So he is still standing with the workers. And, I think Bernie Sanders could come back around, and if he wanted to run again, and I don't think it's a bad idea, as I mentioned, I think he could grab a lot of those Trump voter base if he were to stick to, and I mean this, every politician derails into culture war of some sort, racism, sexism, bigotry, critical race theory, groomers, like whatever it is that they devolve into. If they just stay away from that, do not let Twitter run their campaigns. If they stuck with the issues of building back the middle class, putting money back in the pockets of people, giving them health care, helping people live their best lives where they can take a vacation once a year with their kids to the Grand Canyon or Times Square, Disneyland, the things that people want, have a 3-car, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house or whatever, the people want, the things that we grew up thinking we could have if we worked, even if we were working blue-collar jobs. And that is just not happening anymore in this country. So if Bernie sticks to that, I think he could actually grab quite a bit of those Trump voters, certainly a lot of Democrats. Right now, people are hungry for economic issues again, like they were in 2016. If he were to do that, he could change, even if he doesn't win, even if the Democrats don't give him the nomination, he could change the rhetoric, the landscape of the next election, what they're talking about.
I think that's true, but I also would resist a framing that says mentioning the existence of racism, sexism, or bigotry that is really, really real in a lot of people's lives is not mutually exclusive to really focusing and prioritizing a lot of the economic issues. When I spoke to Christian Smalls recently, he was talking about the racial diversity at the Staten Island plant, and a lot of people looked at him. Amazon issued that famous memo, right, that said he wasn't articulate. They didn't like the way he looked and presented himself. But his point was that because I am from this community, because people recognize me and I dress like someone who's from the area, I look like someone who's from the area, all of that is mingled up in people's ability to trust you and relate to you. And I think that's a really important part of this broader organizing effort. One other just brief point, when I talked to people who traveled with Bernie on the 2016 campaign, one person in particular, Ben Jealous, former head of the NAACP, said he was really nervous when Bernie took a speech talking about Black Lives Matter in addition to all of these other issues into a white part of the country for the first time, and he cringed as the part of the speech about Black Lives Matter came up, thinking that the audience that had been cheering with Bernie was going to stop cheering with him. But because the speech touched on everybody's issues and included everybody's things, he was pleasantly surprised to see that people really whooped and hollered and stood on their chairs and clapped for that part of the speech in particular. So I really do think key to solidarity is not cutting off the parts that you think are going to be distasteful to people, but making sure that everybody's issues are heard in a kind of equal way.
Well, Bri, you make some really great points, but we got to move on. We're going to listen to your radar. I don't have a radar today, everybody, just so everybody knows, but Briahna, you've got a great radar. We are going to hear that next. Looking forward to it.